Historically, public sector organizations were built for stability. Hierarchies were rigid, and procedures were designed to move predictably through clear chains of command. That predictability is being eroded by rapid economic shifts that traditional budgetary cycles were never designed to handle. These shifts are compounded by AI-driven transformations. As data-driven execution becomes the baseline for performance, standard operating procedures based on manual review cycles are becoming obsolete. Government agencies face a specific difficulty here. They must adapt while maintaining nonprofit mandates and public interest constraints. Unlike a private firm, they cannot abandon a core mission simply because it is difficult to digitize. Standard technical management assumes a closed, linear system where rules are static. However, when AI and economic volatility introduce nonlinear variables, a leader's ability to follow a manual is no longer enough to keep an organization functional. Maintaining public trust in this specific operational context requires a form of leadership influence that prioritizes adaptability over rigid adherence to legacy hierarchies. For decades, organizational development has relied on two specific theories to navigate change: charismatic leadership and transformational leadership. Charismatic leadership functions through the individual executive, using their self-confidence and personal vision to pull an organization forward. Transformational leadership focuses on the team, attempting to align every employee to shared, inspirational organizational values. While effective in stable environments, these models face a paradox. They often fail when applied in isolation against the systemic complexities of the current public sector. Environments characterized as brittle, anxious, and nonlinear demand more than just inspiration. They require a specific type of systemic agility that individual charisma cannot provide. Surviving the next decade requires synthesizing these legacy theories into a specific, purpose-built construct known as influential leadership. This comparative analysis matrix evaluates how legacy leadership models respond to modern organizational stress. The bottom row, conceptual limitations, identifies the precise points where these historical models break down under pressure. For charismatic leadership, the limitation is rooted in its focus on the individual. This model often breeds overdependence on a single person. During a crisis, this can lead to poor listening, a sensitivity to criticism, and heightened risk-taking that lacks necessary ethical guardrails. Transformational leadership suffers from a different set of vulnerabilities. Its efficacy degrades when teams are physically dispersed or lack a deep shared cultural background. Without those connections, the core mechanisms of value alignment begin to fail. Because both models contain fatal operational blind spots, their functional components must be isolated and recombined. This synthesized matrix represents the qualitative extraction of leadership traits that are proven to withstand modern environmental stressors. From charismatic leadership, researchers isolated vision as the essential internal mechanism. From the transformational model, they extracted trust building and change leadership as the primary drivers of organizational progress. Finally, they integrated deep listening and networking from standard influence principles to expand the leader's operational scope. Mapping these traits together creates the specific framework for influential leadership. This synthesis creates a framework for leadership that is engineered specifically for public sector resilience. The finalized model of influential leadership is built on three specific pillars. The first pillar is leadership capability. In this context, capability is defined by a strategic vision that is integrated with empirical data execution and an active AI mindset. The second pillar is social skills for influence. This requires an operational shift towards two-way communication, prioritizing deep listening to establish psychological safety across a network. The final pillar is inner attributes. Empathy, ethical integrity, and psychological resilience are defined here as structural requirements for ensuring the public interest is prioritized over personal gain. Influential leadership is a balanced triad of technical execution, psychological trust, and ethical integrity. Moving from a theoretical model to actual organizational change requires specific development interventions. Most leadership training fails because it treats these competencies as generic knowledge rather than experiential skills that must be developed through practice. These guidelines specify the pedagogical tactics used to build the core components of the influential leadership model. Leadership capability development now mandates interventions focused on AI literacy, ensuring leaders understand how to incorporate machine learning into organizational processes.
For social skills, the focus shifts to deep conversational communication, using storytelling and active listening to foster a culture of trust. The goal is to move beyond passive knowledge transfer and toward active, experiential mindset shaping. However, training alone is insufficient if the underlying organizational structure does not support these new behaviors. Sustaining this model requires specific support systems and monitoring protocols. Organizations must implement policies that allocate executives the time and psychological safety to experiment with new technologies and learn from inevitable failures. Continuous progress tracking and visible behavioral indicators are required to ensure the shift in leadership style is permanent. These systems work together to create a sustainable learning culture across the public sector. Leadership for the next decade is systematically engineered by aligning data-driven capability, psychological trust, and ethical resilience into a continuous developmental process.